If you wandered the streets of Key West, Florida, in the late 1970s, you might have been bemused by a curious fashion trend. Tourists and locals alike, sporting $5 novelty t-shirts, emblazoned with the question, "Where is Bum Fardo?" To tourists, the t-shirts posed a peculiar question, one that perhaps evoked nothing more than a quirky sense of local humor. But to Key West residents, the name Bum Fardo held a more profound meaning, one laced with intrigue, controversy, and crime. Fardo, real name Joseph Bum Fardo, had been the fire chief of the island city, a flamboyant character known for his eccentricity, his alleged dabbling in witchcraft, and, most importantly, his role in the local drug trade. By 1976, he had vanished without a trace, slipping into the shadows of criminal folklore. His disappearance left both authorities and the public baffled, and his name continues to evoke fascination to this day. The King of Key West, Joseph Bum Fardo, was born in Key West on the 3rd of July 1919 to a Spanish family. His childhood was shaped by an enduring fascination with the fire station located across the street from his house. He was often seen loitering around the station, pestering the firemen for favors and lending a hand where he could. The firemen affectionately dubbed him the Little Bum, a nickname that stuck with him throughout his life. As he grew older, Fardo's path seemed inextricably bound to the fire station. He married Esther in 1955, though the couple had no children. Over the years, Fardo took on several jobs, including one at a funeral home, but he was eventually drawn back to the fire service, where he worked his way up from operating fire hoses to becoming fire chief in 1964. Fardo's personality matched the vibrant energy of Key West. He was often seen dressed in striking red suits, complete with rose-tinted glasses and gold jewelry. His car, a lime green Ford Galaxy 500, bore the Spanish phrase El Jefe, meaning the chief, on either the side or the license plate, depending on which account one believes. This ostentatious style was further accentuated by his penchant for smoking large cigars and wearing a gold double-headed fire axe on his tie. Yet, behind the veneer of this public role was a darker, more controversial figure. As a devout practitioner of Santeria, a religion originating from Cuba that blends Catholicism with African spiritual beliefs, Fardo often performed rituals on the fender of his car at local baseball games, claiming they were for good luck. This practice fueled rumors that Fardo dabbled in witchcraft or voodoo, adding to his eccentric reputation. In 1966, Fardo's position as fire chief came under threat when the city commission accused him of misappropriating city funds. However, the Civil Service Board overturned the decision to remove him after a 30-day suspension. Notably, one of the board members was Fardo's nephew. The fire chief remained in his post, continuing to display the larger-than-life persona that had made him a Key West fixture. A flamboyant life, marred by controversy. While Fardo's status as fire chief gave him a respectable image, it was also clear that he had a tendency towards erratic behavior. In 1968, he was embroiled in controversy when he was suspended for 30 days over multiple charges, including forging a fireman's signature to cash a check worth $90.73. The Civil Service Board, again under controversial circumstances, did not uphold the suspension, sparking further scrutiny of Fardo's activities. His unpredictability extended to his personal life as well. In one bizarre incident in January 1971, Fardo failed to yield to an emergency vehicle and crashed into a motorcycle patrolman. Not long after, he finished attending to a fire call, only to jump into a canal thinking it was a swimming pool. Unable to swim, he had to be rescued by emergency responders. These episodes further fueled the public's perception of Farto as an eccentric but affable figure. However, by the early 1970s, it became apparent that Farto's dealings were not just confined to quirky antics and local fire brigade duties. With the island's economy suffering after the withdrawal of the naval forces from a nearby base, many residents, including Farto, turned to alternative means of income. In his case, this meant drug dealing. Though it seemed innocent enough, in the cultural context of the time, selling marijuana and cocaine was treated almost as casually as shrimping. It remained illegal, and as fate would have it, Farto's activities would eventually catch up with him. Operation Conch, the arrest of Bum Farto. Key West in the 1972 had a laissez-faire attitude towards drug dealing. The island's inhabitants were not particularly concerned with the legalities of selling marijuana or even cocaine. To some, dealing drugs was simply another way to earn a living. For years, Farto comfortably conducted drug transactions outside his fire station, making no apparent effort to conceal his second career. This local tolerance for illicit activities, however, drew the ire of Florida's governor, Reuben Askew, who ordered an investigation into the island's indifference to the drug trade. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, Florida Department of Criminal Law Enforcement, and the Dade County Organized Crime Bureau collaborated on an undercover investigation dubbed Operation Conch. Farto's drug dealings were betrayed by an informant named Titus Walters, who, in turn, introduced him to undercover agent Larry Dollar. Posing as Walter's cousin, Dollar approached Farto to buy some cocaine, offering a gold diamond ring in exchange for the product. At first, Farto hesitated, claiming he would need to source the cocaine. The situation took a grim turn when Walters was found dead in his bathtub, having been shot twice in the head and injected with heroin and drain cleaner. A dealer named Bobby Marion Francis was later convicted of the murder. Despite this disturbing development, Farto continued his illegal dealings. Soon after, he procured the cocaine for Dollar, who covertly photographed the transaction. On the 9th of September 1975, law enforcement officers surrounded Farto's home, arrested him, and impounded his cherished lime green Ford Galaxy. The disappearance of Bum Farto. The arrest marked a turning point for Farto. Though he was initially freed on bail, paid for by a fellow defendant, his trial was swift and damning. In February 1976, a jury convicted Farto of drug trafficking after just 30 minutes of deliberation, facing a prison sentence of up to 31 years for selling marijuana and cocaine. Farto's future looked bleak. However, Farto had one final trick up his sleeve. On the 16th of February 1976, days after his conviction, Farto told his wife, Esther, that he needed to attend to some business in Miami. He rented a Pontiac Le Mans and drove north out of Key West. Weeks later, the car was found abandoned in Miami. Farto, however, had disappeared. The mystery of his vanishing act captivated Key West. T-shirts bearing the phrase, "Where is Bum Farto?" flew off the shelves, with one shop selling over 800 inches a short span of time. Some shirts bore variations of the slogan, including "Bums Away" and "Whatever Happened to El Jefe." Even singer Jimmy Buffett donned one of the infamous T-shirts, cementing Farto's place in pop culture. Speculation swirled about his whereabouts. Some believed that Farto had fled to Spain or Latin America. Others suggested he had met a more sinister fate, possibly executed by fellow drug dealers who feared what he might reveal under pressure. One local even speculated that he had been thrown overboard from a shrimp boat. Despite various theories, no concrete evidence of Farto's whereabouts ever emerged. Legacy of a legend. In 1980, a rumor surfaced that Farto had been spotted in Costa Rica, renewing his passport at the U.S. Embassy. 6 residents of the town of Golfito claimed to have seen him, though their accounts were never confirmed. Authorities believed he had lived there until 1979, when American fugitives were being expelled. Yet beyond these unsubstantiated reports, the fate of Bum Farto remains a mystery. In 1986, 10 years after his disappearance, Farto was declared legally dead, allowing Esther to collect a modest insurance payout. However, in the years since, Farto's legend has only grown. In 2022, a musical based on his life premiered in Key West, reviving interest in the fire chief who vanished without a trace. Visitors to the Key West Fire Hose Museum can even see Farto's desk and some of his uniforms on display. Perhaps the final word on Farto came from his attorney, Manny James, who was seen walking the streets of Key West in the late 1970 seconds wearing a t-shirt that read, "Bum is alive and well in Spain." Whether or not that claim is true, the mystery of Bum Farto continues to live on, an enduring part of Key West's colorful history.